Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up for Friday, December 1st, 2017. The WNW 311 top story: North Korea and their missile test. New North Korea missile could reach the U.S. capital. This is an amazing story. I think it caught a lot of people by surprise. This thing went up 28,000 miles. It went up multiple times higher than the International Space Station, which orbits about 600 miles, above the Earth. When Donald Trump heard about this, he said, "quote We'll take care of it." Also Nikki Haley, when she heard about this story, when she heard about this, she said that if war comes, make no mistake, the North Korean regime will be utterly destroyed. Trump also said that the North Korean missile launch is a situation that we will handle. And he didn't really explain that, but Nikki Haley was pretty blunt when she talked about totally destroying the North Korean regime. Now, Russia is also out saying the U.S. is trying to goad the North Koreans into making a mistake and doing something crazy. But listen, the U.S. didn't make them fire a missile 28,000 miles up into space past the space station. Then it came down in the Japanese economic zone there. Everybody's nervous. And because this thing went so high, Secretary Mattis, Secretary of Defense, said, listen, this can hit Washington, D.C. Other experts say the same thing. And really could hit just about anywhere in the world. It went a long way. I think it caught people, and again, I think it caught people by surprise. Now, have they perfected the miniaturization of a nuclear warhead? I mean, who knows? But this is a threat. And when Donald Trump says, don't worry, we'll take care of it, I don't look at him being like a blowhard. I don't know if they're going to use this as an excuse because, right now we are like in supernova territory with the economy. It's just, supernova goes up and then boom, it turns into a black hole. But it's unbelievable that the UN ambassador speaking that harshly to another country about war is, and I don't think she was off the reservation. I think that's what she was supposed to do. Say that the U.S. is going to totally destroy the North Korean regime. But here is another problem area I want to bring up, and I don't care about this Matt Lauer thing. I mean, these are the things that ought to be on the front page. And China to deploy elite troops in Syria to fight alongside Assad's army. Now, you say, why are the Chinese fighting in Syria? Well, the Chinese absolutely have their own Islamic terrorist, Islamic militants in China. About 10 million or so, millions for sure. That's for sure. And actually, some of these Chinese ISIS or Al Qaeda or the Islamic militants went and fought in Syria with ISIS and with Al Qaeda. Now they're still having a war there, but ISIS is mostly defeated. But this just shows the next round it's going to be shaped up in the Middle East. I mean, this is almost biblical. I mean, China has got troops, going to have troops there. Iran has troops in Syria. Russia, troops, bases, naval, Air Force bases, the U.S., France, Great Britain. I mean, this is shaping up to be one hotspot area and setting the table for the next war. Something that is worrisome and troubling, and you should be apprised of. This is just total look over here, stupid look over here. Oh, Matt Lauer, Savannah Guthrie, and I'm sorry. Just come on. I mean, I had a boss, Shelley Ross at Good Morning America. Somebody pitched a story about nannies working for rich people and how they rip them off. And of course, my boss walked out of the room and said, "Rich people stories." Didn't want to do it. No mass audience appeal. And so that's what this is. In my opinion, it's just look over here, look over here, look over here. But yet another, mainstream media, a person that went down in a ball of flames for tawdry, horrible things. These are supposed to be the people we trust. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Brian Williams, he lied about being shot down in a helicopter, but yet he's got a job. I don't know if Matt Lauer will be able to come back. I don't know. I don't wish anything negative to him. I don't know the man. It's just unbelievable what's been going on with the mainstream media. And incidentally, Cliff High he predicted that the mainstream media would be culled out, and mainly by sexual sexual scandals, whether it be pedophilia or whether it be sexual harassment or sexual assault, whatever. He said about a third in his predictive linguistics that he has with Cliff High at halfpasthuman.com. I thought it was, wow, this is coming to fruition. Pretty amazing. And then all the people in Hollywood, which is kind of an extension of the media. I mean, they broadcast to people in their movies and their plays and thought shaping and all that. But it's just unbelievable. John McCain is a yes vote for this tax plan, although it's got plenty of problems and it's going to be tough to work out between the House and Senate if and when it does get passed in the Senate. But, everything went haywire crazy to the good upside after he said that he's going to vote for the tax cut. It sent the Dow soaring to record highs as the yield curve collapse continues. Now, what are they talking about yield curve collapse? This is what Gregory Mannarino at TradersChoice.net talks about the flattening yield curve, which is basically saying there's going to be a recession. I actually called him. I said, so what do you think? Is this saying there's going to be a recession? He says, no, it's screaming that there's going to be a recession. The bond market is screaming there's trouble, and it's not as good as this record high stock market is showing. But let me show you what I mean by this. I'm just going to use two points on the map, the 10-year Treasury and the 30-year Treasury. And this is what we're talking about. Right here, it's the 10-year money. If you wanted to plunk your money down for 10 years, they'll pay you 2.41%. And if you say, hey, Mr. Banker or Mr. Government, I'd like to wrap my money up longer, how much more can I get? 0.4%, 40 basis points more. This is what it means by the flattening yield curve. I mean, I was kind of crazy. You for 10-year money, you get 2.4%. To tie your money up for 30 years, you get just 0.4, not even 0.5% more. This is showing the yield curve flattening, and every time the yield curve flattens, we have big trouble. And that's what Mannarino also told me. He says, listen, they always say this is different, but it was the same thing in 2008. We had a rocketing stock market. We had house prices that were going up, and then we had this flattening yield curve, and boom, we had this big crash. And he says, I think this is setting up the same way. It's not going to be different. It's just going to be a bigger crash, basically, is what he says. And there's a lot of people that are warning, and Goldman Sachs has been all over the place. They're, a few weeks ago, they're saying, oh, this is going to go up. And now they're saying something totally different. Goldman says, highest valuations in the stock market since 1900 leave investors in for a world of hurt. So Goldman Sachs is warning, of course, day before we had another record all-time high because of this vote in the Senate for tax cuts, which, and incidentally, I want to come back to that briefly. Listen, a lot of people say this is not a good idea. I mean, of course, the tax cuts have tax increases, and they're haggling it out in the Senate. Of course, then they have to make the sausage between the House and the Senate if and when it does get passed. But this tax cut package is going to be inflationary. Some people say that when everything's done, it's still going to have a $1 trillion addition of debt to the budget. Peter Schiff also says, he was on here saying, listen, this is going to be inflationary. They're borrowing money to give people some money. They need to cut government, not keep borrowing money to keep running the government. They're not cutting anything in this budget. And then we have the dollar jumping. Of course, it didn't jump that much. It's still down 10 points from the first of the year. Dollar jumps as Yellen goes full Bernanke and warns asset valuations are high, but the risk is contained. Remember when Bernanke said about the subprime problem that it's going to be the subprime loans are be contained. Well, that was total BS. I mean, the whole real estate market collapsed, including commercial real estate. That's another thing that Danielle DiMartino Booth talked about we're in for a world of hurt for the commercial real estate market. I mean, we're in for a world of hurt. And how would you be in for a world of hurt? Well, this is one of the big things that, again, there's a big disconnect between the real economy and what's happening on the ground and the real unemployment. I mean, they're touting these 3% and 3.3% GDP numbers. They're touting the lowest employment rate in 20 or 30 years. Then you have shadowstats.com. This is John Williams at shadowstats.com talking about how the unemployment rate is, if you did it the way it was 1994 and earlier, it'd be, north of 20%. But this is This is Michael Snyder, economiccollapseblog.com. I'm talking about the commercial real estate market. We have tripled the number of store closings from last year. Again, Michael Snyder, of course, he's running for Congress, but that's he hasn't won yet. He's still doing the economic collapse blog. 20 major retailers have closed at least 50 stores in 2017. That's one bullet point. Last year, a total of 2,056 store locations were closed down. This year, and we still have another month to go, this year more than 6,700 stores have been shut down so far. That absolutely shatters the all-time record for store closings in a single year. And I wanted to point out about this. Up in Canada, they closed all the Sears stores in Canada, laid off about 12,000 people. And listen, I love Sears. I love the Craftsman brand. I love the Kenmore brand. I love Sears, but I think they're in deep trouble. I think they're in trouble. There's going to be a lot of stores, I predict, that are going to close down after the first of the year. A lot of stores have make or break years coming. They got to make it, and I think a lot of them are going to get broke. I hope I'm wrong about Sears. I like Sears. I think they have good products, but that's going to be if they file, for Chapter 7, if they actually shut their doors, that's going to be a tremendous psychological hit. It could be psychedelic too. A psychological hit on people with Sears to go out of business. And this isn't all going to Amazon and Walmart.com and all online. This is just, a economy not doing as well as the record stock market would tell you it's doing. Shadowstats.com, their latest report. This is more of the warning of the economy is not as good as they say. Per capita take-home pay contracted at an annualized pace of 0.29%, and that's a negative, down 0.29%. And this supports neither a booming economy nor a soaring consumer outlook when you have a contracting take-home pay. Also, advanced merchandise trade deficit widened sharply, suggesting a potential early hit to fourth quarter GDP. You won't find that out probably until end of January. But still, I mean, it's not as good as they want you to think it is. The record high stock market is a lot of air. If you took away all the Federal Reserve accommodation and the low interest rates, which are supposed to raise interest rates at the end of the year, they say that it's all 97% priced in. We'll see if they can do that. But another story I want to talk to you about is Bitcoin. I remember when Rob Kirby came on here at the beginning of the year and said, all these cryptocurrencies are really a reflection of people running out of the dollar. This is another prediction that Cliff High made at the beginning of the year, near the beginning of the year, the end of the year. He said that Bitcoin, I think at the beginning of this year, 2017, he said by February or March of 2018, Bitcoin would be 14,000 a unit. Well, pretty close there, Cliff High. It shot all the way up to 11,000 something. Now, I know it shot down 20%, but still, it's at 9,000, 9,500. It changes so much. It's still 9,500 a unit, roughly, ballpark, up and down, ballpark plus or minus. Still up, way up. It's just unbelievable. But here, when you start seeing it, though, on USA Today, and they start talking about Bitcoin bubble, time for some thought shaping. And then, believe it or not, somebody in the White House press corps asked about it. And the White House says, it's monitoring the Bitcoin situation. Homeland Security is involved. Homeland Security is involved. That means it's a national security issue. The Federal Reserve also out saying that, these cryptocurrencies could, quote, pose serious financial stability issues. Joseph Stiglitz, the Nobel Economics Prize winner, one of them anyway, he says that the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency should be outlawed. Another Nobel Prize winner in economics, Robert Shiller, says they're eventually going to crash. Now, listen, all the Bitcoin fans out there, don't call me and write me and rag on me and rage on me. I'm just telling you what's coming. Are they going to try to basically make Bitcoin illegal, criminalize Bitcoin? They've been talking about that in Congress. I mean, Senator Grassley has been talking about quasi-criminalizing Bitcoin. This is in competition with the U.S. dollar, poses serious financial instability problems. You mean like destroying the dollar? A lot of people are running out of fiat currencies. People say we've printed a lot of money. Well, we've really printed a lot of bonds, and when they cash, it's going to take a lot of dollars or a lot of euros or a lot of yen, a lot of fiat currency, and that is inflationary to pay off those bonds. We're never going to pay that debt off. We just keep rolling it over. So Bitcoin is really a marker that people are losing faith in fiat currency. Now, all this money ought to be running into gold and silver and precious metals, platinum. But of course, they got the finger on the scale there. They're dumping naked shorts into the market at 4 billion, 2 billion at a crack. But that's going to probably end. We just have a lot of debt that we are never planning on paying back, which is why these tax cuts and why this whole tax thing is a little spooky. Even David Stockman says this in this budget that they're putting up with the tax cuts in it is dangerous. It causes a lot of problems. It really can't be done. He's very negative on these big tax cuts because we have a lot of debt, and it has to be financed. And so I don't know. One of the things I wanted to bring up the paper, I loved to point out how they thought shape and what kind of yellow journalism weasels they are. This is the holiday edition for USA Today, and I just wanted to show you the cover here. This is four basically alleged people who have committed sexual assault or sexual improprieties or whatever, and you have he was fired, Charlie Weinstein. You know who he is. He's been in rehab. He's been in rehab. He's sorry. And then you have in the same group you have Roy Moore. He is not saying he's sorry. He is doubling down on I deny all that. Now, he's had several women come out. Of course, he points out none of this was a problem until after he won the primary, after Karl Rove and Mitch McConnell and their super PAC spent $32 million trying to destroy Roy Moore. And they weren't talking about the issues. They were just simply trying to destroy him. Roy Moore brought up the fact that, he became chief judge. He ran for that. He was on the Supreme Court in Alabama. He says, I was vetted. They had all kinds of teams of people that went out everywhere. And then none of this came up until he after he won the primary. And I think once he won the primary, he was going to be the guy. Because that was Jeff Sessions' seat. It's traditionally a Republican seat. The Republican would win hands down in that seat. And so, but I wanted to bring up one other thing about Roy Moore. When I heard two of the most serious accusers, one where he was in a place behind a store and the woman said, I thought I was going to be raped. Her story has been punched full of holes, and even her own family member says she's a liar. And I don't want to get into every minutia and every detail. Gloria Allred represents the other woman, and this is the other big case. And this woman actually wrote a letter and gave it to one of the local newspapers down there, which are totally liberal. They went for, endorsed Obama, endorsed Clinton, totally liberal left-wing newspapers trying to thought shape people in Alabama into, being a Marxist, baby killer, nutty, loony communist. Is what the left has turned into. That's what the Democrats have turned into. Marxist communists. I mean, let's just call them what they are. And Gloria Allred brought out this yearbook and said, look, Roy Moore signed this girl's yearbook when she was, not of legal age. And, this pretty much proves it. Well, Roy Moore says, no, it's false. Forgery. And I want to take it somewhere. I want you to put it under scrutiny. It's a forgery. I didn't do that. And, to me, when I heard that yearbook was there, I thought, oh, he's done. And then Roy Moore says, no, forgery. If Gloria Allred wanted to slam dunk Roy Moore, that's the attorney for the woman that said that Roy Moore took indecent liberties with her when she was 14. If she wanted to slam dunk Roy Moore, she'd take it to 2 or 3 experts. They would say, oh, this is totally legit. The ink is, 30 years old or however old it's supposed to be. Totally legit. That's his signature. But if they take it to a place and all 3 of the experts say, wow, this ink is only, 6 weeks old, then it's over. And if Gloria Allred wanted to slam dunk Roy Moore, she would put that yearbook that she brought out as evidence that Roy Moore signed this book when this girl was, below legal age, which Roy Moore totally denies, and says it's just the deep state, just the swamp trying to just destroy him. And I got to tell you, that to me, if he signed the yearbook, I'd say, boom, you're done. But listen, if it's a phony, Gloria Allred, if you know this is a phony, and you could dunk him in a minute by having this thing authenticated, and she's not doing it, stop. The minute this thing gets tested before this election and it's deemed a fake, there's an old saying in law, and it is untruthful in one, untruthful in all. Boom, it's over. And I don't think the people of Alabama are buying this. Latest poll shows he's up by 8 points. One pollster says, listen, there's a lot of people aren't going to tell you they're going to vote for Roy Moore. You add 5 points to it. He's going to win going away. I think, and I'm not saying that when women come out there, put them under scrutiny and not believe it. I'm just saying, in this case, it doesn't pass the smell test. This is a guy with a 40-year public record, running for office 7, 8 times, I think 3 or 4 times, the statewide offices, including the Senate race that's down there and all the opposition research. And they spent $32 million, and they didn't find this out? It's just absolutely. The other thing that came out was about he was banned from the mall. One American News went down there and looked into that. They couldn't find anybody that would say he was banned from the mall. No records on it. As a matter of fact, one of the mall manager at the time said that's never happened. I never had any records of that. It just seems to me that, listen, if you're making claims and you're a woman and you're making claims of harassment, okay, no problem. If it happened, man, you shouldn't be harassed. But the claims have to be true. They have to stand up to scrutiny. And in this case where Roy Moore took indecent liberties with a 14-year-old girl, and they have a yearbook, and if they can't authenticate that and refuse to turn that over to let experts look at it, I think that just doesn't pass the smell test, period, the M. Then I just want to close with this. I think this is Vanity Fair put this out. And it's all the people that they've had in the media, the recent people that have all been, various levels of sexual harassment, sexual improprieties, all this stuff. Matt Lauer's not on here. They're all Democrats. I mean, they're all Democrats. And I just wanted to bring you to my last thought about the Clintons. And, you hear people talking about, how they would change their ideas and the Clintons should apologize. And you know why they're doing that, don't you? The Clintons are no longer of any use to the Democrats. And now the Clintons, Bill and Hillary, are huge liabilities. So time to go under the bus, Bill and Hillary. Your partying days are over. The mainstream media is out for blood. And they're going to be sacrificed on that little satanic altar they have all been worshiping. Their buddies aren't going to be their buddies anymore. It's just really unbelievable. And one last thing. I want to talk about these thousands now of sealed indictments. I'm having a hard time sourcing any of that. Supposedly the number is up to 4,000 sealed indictments. In order to have a speedy trial, I don't know if they could process 4,000 cases that quickly. Now, maybe this is where the military tribunals come into that Mark Taylor was talking about. Now, listen, I just can't get a source for that. But there's no doubt that Donald Trump has been under attack by the deep state and still is, with Robert Mueller, who was trying to go. I think his job is to try to take Donald Trump out and as many people around him as he can and try to make him cry uncle. I don't think he's going to be successful. And there's going to be a time when Donald Trump is going to fight back. I mean, he does control the FBI. He does control the Justice Department. He does control the CIA. Although Mike Pompeo may be going from CIA over to the State Department as Secretary of State. Seems to me that Mike Pompeo's job over at the CIA is done, and maybe he has another branch of government to clean up. We shall see. But there's a huge behind-the-scenes battle going on in our government, a huge one, and I think it's going to eventually spill out into the open. I really do. I think it's going to spill out into the wide open spaces, especially if the economy gets knocked off the rails. I have Dr. Mark Skidmore. He is the economics professor at Michigan State University who did the research project where he found just in two government departments, Department of Defense, DOD, and Housing and Urban Development, HUD, just two departments found 21 trillion with a T, $21 trillion in missing money. Money appropriated, money approved, money that came in and out of accounts at those two government entities. That has nothing to do with the Constitution, no approval process, completely extra constitutional, beyond, outside of the Constitution, breaking the law. And we're talking $21 trillion. Skidmore says, hey, listen, there's always adjustments. I mean, usually it's about, if you have a big budget, it's 1%. So, let's take just the Army under the Department of Defense. He said, you might have $1.2 billion. It's a $122 billion budget. You might have $1.2 billion of money you just couldn't find. And that would be about about the size of an adjustment that you could have, 1%. You're talking about, the Army having a $6.5 trillion adjustment. It's off the charts. And nobody cares about this. But Mark Skidmore will talk about his research project and why this is a threat to national security and why this is a threat to our Constitution and our democracy. We're going to find out. Skidmore is going to be the early Sunday release, the guest for the early Sunday release. And with that, I say to you, thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com with your comments. I got smart people here. And your donations. That helps us out. And remember, fear not. Prepare yourself mentally, physically, above all, spiritually. Fear not. God the Father and His Son, Jesus Christ, are firmly in charge. Thanks for supporting USAWatchdog.com.